Let's hit it. And welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort. All right, here we go. What you think about, you will bring about. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I hope you enjoyed the opening music. It's by the Mark Arneson Band featuring Maya Dore, and it's called Clarion Call. And you can download that on any of your favorite music apps if you'd like. For those of you that are new to our show, we're about sound information, not just sound bites. We want to have real conversations with real people in the trenches, and that means people diagnosed. That means families caring for loved ones, professionals in the industry, researchers, advocates, neighbors, you name it. Everybody has something to contribute, and as long as we do it in a respectful way, we want to be open to that. So again, we hope that you will join us. And today is open mic, so that gives even more opportunity to have your voice be heard. You can call in at 323-870-4602. That's 323-870-4602. Now, I need to thank our listeners before I pull in any guests because you guys, make us what we are. I never in my wildest dreams thought we'd be heard around the world and connecting with people doing such amazing work. So thank you so much for your likes, for your clicks, for your shares. It has truly made a big, big difference in our work and the ability of Alzheimer Speaks to kind of build that sense of community, that collaboration, that comfort, that thing that says, hey, we're in this together, and we're never, ever alone. There's always someone you can reach out to. Now, if you missed our shows last week, we did a couple of shows with Jade Angelica, who wrote this beautiful audio play called The Forgetting and the Forgetting. And we have one where Jade and I talk for about 26 minutes, and then the play begins, and it's a 90-minute play. Then we also invited the cast back on another date, and we talked with them and what they got out of the play and what it was like for them to be in a play that really highlights the everyday life with dementia, both for a person diagnosed and their family members. And then there was another one that I thought was extremely interesting as well. We talked with 3 different families and what the impact of COVID had on them and how they did the dance to still connect and what worked and what didn't work for them. And then coming up, we are going to be doing a program this Thursday featuring MDVIP, and they are going to be talking about a survey that they have on the healthy brain and what is your IQ, and it's really quite fascinating, so I would recommend that you listen to that. We're also going to have the following show is going to be on kind of backyard rec therapy, and what does that mean? What does it look like? How do you get involved? So lots of cool stuff going on. All of our shows are archived, so you can be on here forever if you want, because we've been doing this since 2011. And let's see what else. I need to give a couple of shout-outs. One is to Chantal Horn. She's a student in New Zealand, and she has created a survey that she would love people to participate in. It's regarding dementia caregivers and burnout. It takes about 10 minutes to take that quiz. But you can find more information on our blog or go to alzheimerspeaks.com. It's right at the top. And then, of course, I have to give a shout out to Artist Senior Living in Woodbury. We did our first Artist Way Memory Cafe. Those are going to be held virtually on the third Wednesday of every month from 1 to 2. And if you'd like to participate, no matter where you live, the number is 612-200-0506. That's 612-200-0506. And I'm going to help facilitate those in the beginning until the group kind of takes off and flies on their own. Dementia Alliance International is having a human rights as a practical model residential aged care webinar, which will be really interesting. Daniela Greenwood is going to be heading that up. That's on September 23rd and 24th, depending on where you're living. And you can go to DAI.org for more information. Daniela, I was lucky enough to meet. She's over in Australia a few years back when she was here. A bunch of international people just got together in California, and she was amazing. So I know that you will get a lot from her. Also, Alzheimer's Disease International released their annual report yesterday, which is a huge report. It comes in two parts, and it's like 250 pages each part. And it's about design and dignity and dementia. And needless to say, I haven't gotten through it all. I barely had time to open up the email yesterday. But you can get more information by going to their website, again, which is Alzheimer's Disease International.org. And then with COVID on us, we have a lot of people looking for something to do. I highly recommend you go to mariasplace.com, filled with free activities, or Coro Health, that's CORO Health, and they are allowing people to update, or I should say download, two of their apps, Music First and Coro Faith, for free. Also, you can visit the memorycafedirectory.com, and that will allow you to find out where virtual cafes are taking place. And again, I think that that's always extremely important for people to be able to stay connected. We're going to hear from the Footbar Walker, and we'll be right back.
Introducing the life-changing Footbar Walker.
I'm Peggy from Danville, Kentucky, and I'm 91 years old. The Footbar Walker revolutionized my care of George. The saving that I made from having to put him in a nursing home came to about $192,000. The Footbar Walker opens and closes just like a standard walker. The only thing that is different is the top bar and the foot bar. Does that ever make a difference?
Does someone you love use a walker? Do they struggle to get up from a seated position? Are you a caregiver dealing with physical pain and stress as you help your patient? The Footbar Walker was designed to assist not only the patient, but also the caregiver. Patients have more control standing up, and no lifting from the caregiver is required. See how it works at thefootbarwalker.com. That's thefootbarwalker.com. Peggy, would you recommend the Footbar Walker?
Do I ever? I would not be in the health that I'm in today at this age had it not been for the Footbar Walker.
Wow, that walker is absolutely fantastic. I've gotten to see it in action, and really, it helps people so much with upper body strength, just feeling more dignified and independent, and it's not stressful on the care partner assisting them in getting up. It's really quite amazing. So I would highly recommend checking out the Footbar Walker, and that's just the .com, and see what you think if you know of anyone in need of using a walker. Now, it looks like we've got our first caller on the line, so let me go ahead and pull them in. This person is from a 4804 number. You are live and on the air. If you don't mind saying your name and where you're from.
Hi, this is Wesley Salazar. I'm calling in from New York City.
Well, welcome, Wesley. And what would you like to share with our audience today?
Well, first of all, thank you for answering my call. I'm thrilled and honored to be here. I'm calling to represent the Alzheimer's Research and Resource Foundation and share some information about a brand new program that we launched this month.
Oh, fantastic.
First things first, I thought I'd give some background information about the foundation itself, just in case anyone's unfamiliar with our work. The Alzheimer's Research and Resource Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit that's dedicated to Alzheimer's care and its research. We are super happy to be celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, huge milestone. And since 1995, ARARF has developed and distributed educational information and materials to folks who are affected by Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, primarily caregivers of folks affected by Alzheimer's disease. And we do that at no cost to caregivers themselves. The resources that we provide are totally free.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, I'm familiar with your group, and the founder, Tom, he and I go way back, and their organization is just loaded with so much fantastic information. But the struggle has always been, how do you reach people? So I'm so glad that you called in. Can you tell us about your campaign?
Yes, I would love to. To celebrate our 25th anniversary, we launched a new, completely free email program that's inspired by a larger program that we have. So before I dive into the email side, I want to talk a little bit about the Alzheimer's Caregiver, which is ARIRF's primary educational resource that we provide for free. And it's a program that was developed to empower in-home caregivers with, the basic skills and knowledge that you need to provide high quality, kindness forward care. It's a program that's based right on science. It was compiled by Alzheimer's researchers and experts, and it consists of a whopping 32 lessons with audio and visual components as well. And it's just meant to help you tackle challenges across the different stages of Alzheimer's disease, from, that initial diagnosis all the way to late stage care. And the Alzheimer's Caregiver is, the pillar of ARIRF's work, and we're immensely proud of the program. And it's incredible how relevant it continues to be, year after year.
Yeah, it is. There's so much information there, and it's, it's really curated and formulated. I mean, it's got great background. It's, like she said, it's research-based, and yet what they put together is really simple to understand. So it's not talking over you, and it's not really even talking at you. It's really talking with you, is how I would say their information is put together, which is really, really nice. I mean, it's just comforting and good sound information.
I'm so glad to hear that. But I do think one of the, challenges when you're a caregiver is just all of the information that's out there. It's, there's a lot, simultaneously a lot, and never enough. But this program, because it's so robust, it really covers everything, at least in terms of the basics that you might need just to provide some great care. And as you mentioned, it's meant to be approachable and accessible to anyone. And with that in mind, with just the sheer size of it in mind, we decided to create a new free email program that's inspired by those 32 lessons that make up the Alzheimer's Caregiver. We know that it's a lot of information, and so our hope is that this new email series, can meet you where you are in your email inbox. When you sign up for the subscription, you'll start getting a free email. Sorry, I keep saying free because people always ask me if you have to pay for it. But you get a free email that contains helpful tips and information. And you get them over the course of 18 weeks. It doesn't go on forever. It's not indefinite. And each of the emails is thematic. So the first email that you get is designed to help you understand, what Alzheimer's is. And then you'll slowly move through the lessons relating to hands-on care, such as assisting with activities of daily living, like bathing and dressing and grooming, then to managing things like sleep issues and other challenges, learning how to communicate effectively with someone with Alzheimer's, learning how to make home environments as safe as possible through the various stages of the disease. I could go on and on. There's just so much information in there. And each email includes some super quick takeaways from the corresponding lesson, and then also includes a link to, the bigger in-depth resources that will help you explore further at your own pace. So our hope is that this program just takes some of the work out of searching for that information, and that, we know that not every lesson of the Alzheimer's caregiver is necessarily going to be relevant to you today or even this week, since that, obviously depends on the stage that you're in. But we hope that by getting this information and all of these lessons to you, you'll at least have them at your fingertips, in your inbox, bookmarked, whatever it may be, whenever you need it.
Oh, that's great. And, we got to make it as simple as possible for caregivers, carers, care partners, care companions, whatever phrase we want to use there, because their time is limited and it's precious and they can get overwhelmed. And so I love this idea that you're emailing things out in chunks. So, they can always make a folder if they can't get to it and come back to it, at another time as well. Now, has this launched yet, or are you just in the beginning of going to launch this?
It is launched. It's ready for everyone to sign up. You can sign up at ararf.org/subscribe. You can also just go to our homepage, ararf.org, and there's a big old green box right on the homepage that has a sign up button. And once you sign up, within 24 hours, you get your first email, and then you're ready to rock and roll.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's I would definitely recommend people try that. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you're not going to get to it, but it's there. And once you have that email, you're going to know how to access all of this great information at ARF as well, again, which is Alzheimer's Research and Resources Foundation, because it will be a tremendous help to people. And even if you might not be in the trenches right now, if you're listening, you've got an interest in this, share it with other people, because there's a lot of people out there that need this and might not have time to listen to our show today. And so, again, spread the word. Don't be shy. Dementia needs you to be a voice and to be, be a super spreader in dementia. That's a good thing when it comes to awareness. Might not be so good with COVID, but with dementia, it's a good thing. So, well, thank you so much for calling in, Leslie. Anything else that you wanted to share with us?
No, just visit our website. We are on social media as well, if you're on Facebook or Instagram under the same name. And definitely reach out to us. We have a contact page that's really easy to find. If you, come across a roadblock, you're looking for resources, chances are we've got it. And we're always happy to share the information that we have. Okay,
wonderful. Thanks so much for calling in today, Leslie. Really appreciate that. Again, she's with the Alzheimer's Research and Resources Foundation, known as ARF. So thank you. We've got another caller on the line here. We've got somebody from a 6394 number, 6394. You are live and on the air. Do you mind sharing your name and where you're from? 6394. You're live and on the air. Do you want to share your name and where you're from?
Hi, Lori. This is Chris Sunberg. Sorry for my delay there. I'm from Minnesota, and I am executive director of a nonprofit here, Elder Voice Family Advocates. And I thought maybe your listeners might be interested in hearing about the work that we've been doing from a state perspective in the care of elders, and that includes those with memory issues as well.
Oh, we're always open to hearing new things. So there's no way any of us can know everything, and so that's what I love about these open mics is it just raises awareness to resources we might not have even known existed. So have at it.
Thank you. And I'm always eager to share our story, and if it's of help to others in other states, super. That's what we're all about. We're about trying to help each other do the best we can for our elders. But let me just give you a short, a review of who we are as an organization. And we're fairly young. We came together, we were formed in 2017 by an elder abuse attorney, Susie Scheller. And she recognized that the voice of the residents and their families who live in the long-term care residence really was missing. The industry was dominating that discussion, and we weren't hearing much from the families. And she brought together a handful, really, a group of family members who often had horrific experiences with elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation, or all of the above. And I was one of those fortunate people to come early together, and we quickly decided that what we needed to do is become an advocacy organization to hopefully make things much better for those living in those residential settings there. So, and what we learned is that, first of all, we really were unique. There aren't many organizations that really just have that total soul focus on the resident and the families. And also what was different is we had a lot of our members and supporters who had the courage, really, to step up and talk about the reality that they experienced living in either a assisted living, a nursing home, or other group care facility. And what we did early on is we started to talk to the media. We told our stories. The media gave a considerable amount of attention to all of this. And in 2017, our major newspaper in Minnesota published a 5-day series, and I believe the title was Left to Suffer. The result of that really kind of shook the dome off at the state capitol, because our governor at that time quickly put together a group of only advocates, which was very different and never had been done in the past. And those advocates included the Alzheimer's Association, AARP, Elder Justice Center, Legal Aid, and then us, that brand new little organization that came forward. And the governor, and this was in December of 2017, asked us to come together with legislative recommendations. It really kind of kiboshed our Christmas holiday, but we really got to work, and we gave him a very detailed, not only recommendations, but actually suggested language for legislation. He adopted every one of those. And in the 2018 legislative session, legislation was introduced. It ultimately did not pass. But in 2019, we were successful in getting that passed. And what we learned soon is that Minnesota was the only state who did not license assisted living, which really kind of accounted for a lot of the problems that we were seeing happening in terms of, horrendous neglect and abuse and even exploitation. So those laws one of the things in particularly the memory care arena is that we finally got a tier of assisted living licensure that is specific to memory care. So when this law becomes effective, they will have to designate that they are a dementia care. Right now, we don't have that. These new laws institute a number of standards, including infection control, physical plan, training, staff training, and requirements for 24-hour awake staff, etc. And it is to become effective August 1st of 2021, next year. Now we've got the pandemic that has hit us, and this has kind of turned everything upside down for us. And so what we're seeing happen, first of all, is the impact of COVID for those with Alzheimer's is devastating. And I just saw a recent statistic that the Alzheimer's disease and dementia rose by more than 20% over normal over this past summer, and they attributed that to really the pandemic. And we're hearing that from our families that are watching their loved ones take a steep decline in their cognitive abilities because there's so little stimulation. Often they're just locked in their rooms and not given the kind of stimulation that they need, and they're very limited, if not prevented altogether, from seeing their families. Mm-hmm. This is having an extraordinary impact, and I'm sure many of your people are witnessing this as well. In Minnesota, we have an extraordinary death rate in long-term care, which as of today was over 72% of all the deaths are happening in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And that's really, heartbreaking, to say the least. And we just are trying our best to get our regulators and legislators to recognize and ultimately the long-term care providers. But there's so many areas of concern, and part of it is now the Department of Health has redeployed 90% of their staff to handle the pandemic. So that means that, investigations are being drastically reduced, surveying of these facilities also being reduced. Families are being prevented from entering the facilities, so there's no eyes on in these facilities, and they're not able to provide the care that they had been. And it has an impact on everybody that is residing there, but it's a huge impact for memory care folks. So what we're seeing too is that now, because even before COVID, we had serious staffing shortages, but the pay is pretty low, very low. They often do better working at McDonald's than they do providing care. And, these are, so obviously they're having trouble attracting people in this. And then you've got the other issues of COVID and such. But I want to give folks a little feel for what we're doing in our advocacy work as a result of all this horrendous impact of COVID. First of all, we're opposing the delay of the assisted living licensure. Had we had licensure in place before this pandemic, I am convinced we would have seen far fewer deaths and needless suffering going on. And we're also opposing giving the long-term care industry blanket immunity from legal action. That is really the last recourse that we really have for anybody to address those facilities that are doing great harm. So we're have offered a number of protections to establish a COVID-19 task force, because what we're seeing is the Department of Health is really relying on a handful of people that are giving them guidance, and they're not broadening that out enough. And the Department of Health is holding all this very valuable data to itself and not releasing that so we can better understand what's going on, where is it going on, why, and how that might impact, a family's decisions where they have their loved one. We're trying to address, getting more robust testing. In our opinion, from the start, the Department of Health, gave very little, not enough attention, let me put it that way, for the care of the folks living in these facilities. And yet they were having constant dialogue with the long-term care industry, as they should. There's nothing wrong with that. But they were not interested in hearing from the families of the residents. So I think this is another reason for the compounding of our issues here. There's a whole number of things that we're going to be looking at, and it's an extremely stressful and distressing time for our folks, not only here in Minnesota, but elsewhere. So, Lori, I just wanted to give folks a feel for what we're about, what we're doing, and if anybody has an interest, they can go to our website at eldervoicefamilyadvocates.org, and there's a contact there, and you can reach me via that as well as get information about us as an organization. But thanks, Lori. I appreciate the time, and certainly would respond to any questions you might have.
Well, I definitely think it's a need, and I think through this whole COVID thing, communities are struggling. They're doing much better than what they were, but part of it was the changing regulations constantly too. Through the process and trying to meet the need. And you had mentioned staffing issues, the PPE. They seem to be getting more creative in terms of how to connect and how can we still have physical visits. Time is going to tell, though. Here in Minnesota, it's going to get cold really quick. We're not going to be able to do the outdoor stuff. So I would encourage anyone to contact Chris, talk more. Maybe this is something of interest. I don't know if your group would expand outside Minnesota, or if you're willing to kind of help people structure in their own states, on that. But, reach out to her and learn all you can if this sounds of interest. If this piques your interest, the door is open now. So take advantage of
Lori,
that. Mm-hmm.
Lori, other states have reached out to us, and we're more than happy to be of help and share what our experiences, what worked for us and what didn't work for us. So
wonderful.
Reach out anytime. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Chris. Now we've got another caller on the line, and the ending number is 5173. 5173. You are live and on the air. If you can state your name and where you're from, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Kate Fossbender, and I'm located in Rhode Island.
Okay. Well, welcome, Kate. Thanks for calling in. And what did you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, so I am not only the creator of the Dementia Letters Project, but what I really wanted to share with you and your audience today is I am also one of the founding members of Reimagining Dementia, which is a brand new creative coalition that seeks to transform the narrative of dementia using creativity and joy and play as a vehicle to do so that connects communities, not working in silos, but becomes the bridge between all the silos that we unfortunately currently have in our care system today.
Wonderful. Who should become members of this group of Reimagining Dementia?
Yeah, anybody can really become a member. Our founding committee is made up of individuals living with dementia who they themselves have a diagnosis of one of the forms of dementia, of educators, of activists, of dementia and care professionals. And we really seek just to be a community that can bond together, that can bounce ideas off of each other, and that can move forward as a wave together to change how we view dementia, from everything from some of our care practices to the language we use in our media and in our art forms, and how it's portrayed to everyone. So anybody can join our community.
Well, fantastic. And are you looking for people to participate in different ways, or what if they sign up? What should they expect?
Yeah, so there's a spectrum of participation. So the first is just to sign up to say, I hear you, I agree with what we are creating and what we seek to create, and leave it at that. And it can go all the way to facilitating formal conversations, be it in the education setting or in the community or organizing events. We really created it so we set out some calls to action, but the goals and the concrete ways that we put it into motion are going to be made up by those in the community and what they can do and where they see their time and talent fits best into the mission.
Oh, fantastic. And do you have any events coming up that you want people to know about, with your group, or meetings that they can participate in?
Yeah, right now we don't currently have any events set up. There are conversations in the works, and those hopefully within the next few weeks we'll have concrete dates that we can share with others. But if people are interested in either joining the coalition or being on the list to be notified when those dates go out, they can email reimaginingdementia@gmail.com, and we'll make sure to keep them in the loop when there are concrete events and programs set in place.
Wonderful. Is there certain things that, if our listeners are wanting to take part, that they should keep in mind in terms of what they could offer the group?
It really is where they are. So if they are, say, a care partner who's living at home with their spouse who might have dementia, for them it may be just sharing their story, and that could be enough. For others, it could be, if they're a professor at a university, sharing it with their students to encourage people to go into caring and dementia professionals. It really, at this point, the imagination can run as wild, and they'll all fold into it as long as it's a part of the mission of transforming the negative narrative, using creativity, and really being joyful about how can we live fully alive with dementia.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you calling in and sharing that information with our group. Again, Reimagine Dementia. Boy, that is just such a powerful name, because we need to do that. I've been dealing with this my mom had dementia for 30 years, and she's been gone sick. So for 36 years, I've been trying to reimagine what it looks like. In the last 10 years, I actively stepped into Alzheimer Speaks to try to make those changes. And I've seen a lot of things happen really in the last 5 years, but I mean, the possibilities are endless. And the more people we can pull together and brainstorm with and learn from one another, the faster we're going to be able to accelerate that and get people the hope and the help that they need. So, again, thank you so much for calling in today, Kate. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Great. We have another caller on the line. This one is from a 1729 number, 1729. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Hi, Lori. This is Terry Moore. I'm in New York City.
Oh, great. Well, welcome, Terry.
Thank you. Let me start by saying that I just want to amplify what you said earlier about being a super spreader is a good thing when it comes to information.
Yep, it sure is. It sure is. I think we have so many negative things that we attach out there nowadays. When you turn on the news, and if we put a smile on somebody's face and make them think of a positive way to twist that around, I think that's a really good thing.
Well, Lori, I'm here to be positive.
Good. We need all that we can get. So what do you have, Terry?
Well, my story is that I became a part of the Alzheimer's scene about 5 years ago when my wife was diagnosed with the disease. And I, at that point, threw myself into the world of Alzheimer's to see what therapies there were, what treatments there were, what cures were on the table. And as you know, the scene is remarkably bleak, although there's some promising research going on. And part of that promising research I found was research that was being done with light therapy, in which light that was at a particular flashing frequency shone into the eyes of subjects that had Alzheimer's, that light stimulated a natural brain frequency which led to and is consistent with higher degrees of awareness and attention and memory. And I thought that was so interesting and so promising, and that it wasn't invasive and harmful and dangerous, that I had someone build one of these lights, and I tried it at home with my wife and my friends. And in a short time, it accrued to their talking about how they were sleeping better and they were in better moods, and so forth. So figuring that this was part of the prevention scene, I established a product which we call a Beacon 40 to produce this particular frequency light, and that has simply reinforced my feeling that the future when it comes to Alzheimer's is not so much in looking at cures, which seem to be a long way away, but in prevention. And there are many things that can be done that accrue to a healthier lifestyle and a healthier brain. We know most of these things, like not smoking. It has been discovered, much to our surprise, that things that accrue to a healthy heart also accrue to a healthy brain. Things like vitamins, good nutrition, exercise, and so forth. And then lastly, the presence of 40 hertz light, of light from a device like our Beacon 40, seems to be nourishing. It's kind of like a vitamin. And for that reason, I decided to start this company called Homeolux and provide this product, Beacon 40, which I hope will be a help to a lot of people. And,
well, it sounds
and that's
really,
my story, Laurie.
Well, it sounds really interesting. I had to chuckle when you said you had your wife and your friends try it, and I thought, well, did you try it, or did you just have them try it?
That's a very good question, and let me answer you right away. I have it on my desk right now because I have come to be such a believer that I think 40 hertz light is like a vitamin, and a Beacon 40 can provide that vitamin. And I have it, and my friends have it, and not all of my family, but some family members have it, and we run it all the time. The thing that I wanted to add here is that we designed the flashing light product, the Beacon 40, so that it would not interfere with lifestyle. So it doesn't require, putting on headgear or having to be in a particular orientation. It's just a light. And it's on, and it provides 40 hertz stimulation, which, as I said, I have really come to think of as a vitamin for the brain.
Well, and I know there's light therapy for depression and stuff out there. That's been around for ages.
Yes, that's well known.
Yeah.
Seasonal affective disorder, yes.
Yeah.
This is fairly new research, but it's from the laboratory. And thus far, I mean, we've been selling this product for some time now. And the word we have from our customers is that, just like we found out here, they say, after a couple of weeks, I noticed that I'm sleeping better, I'm in a better mood. Mom called me by name, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And it's a simple technique, but it's not invasive. And as I said, I've become such a believer. I think it should be everywhere, and one day it may be. And let me just also add that this is Alzheimer's Month, and for Alzheimer's Month, we are donating 100% of our profits to the Alzheimer's Association.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Now, one thing I know you'd mentioned, and this is going to just show how unscientific I am, but I can see people thinking, okay, he said, 40 hertz light therapy. I'm just going to buy 40-watt bulbs, and I'm going to plug them in and have them on and see what happens. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is that it's not 40 watts, it's 40 hertz. And 40 hertz is a flashing frequency. Mm-hmm. And the lights flash at this frequency. That's why it's called a beacon 40, because it's 40 hertz. That 40 hertz frequency turns out to be what the world of neuroscience calls in the gamma range. And this you've heard about alpha waves and theta waves and beta waves. One of the things the brain does is produce gamma waves, and when the brain is making gamma waves, when it's in that gamma mode, it seems to be much more conducive to interaction, to awareness, to memory, and often people who have cognitive difficulty have difficulty in maintaining the correct brain waves and brain rhythms. And this is a device that stimulates the brain right in that gamma frequency, and that's what the Beacon 40 is designed to do.
Well, you talked about sleep, and, just in the last couple of years now, it's really come out the importance of getting good sleep and getting 8 hours, and for some people maybe even more. And a lot of us can lay in bed, but we're up running to the bathroom or checking our phones or whatever.
Right, yes, exactly.
We're really not getting good sleep. And so if
Lori,
this can help with that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because here I was talking about things that are conducive to a healthy brain style. I didn't mention sleep, but you're so right.
Mm-hmm.
That's really high on the list.
Yep. Yeah, very, very important. In mood, you'd mentioned mood. We all want to be in better moods, especially nowadays. There's so much stress on the table. It's like, no matter which way you turn, if it's politics, if it's COVID, if it's finances, it's endless these days. And so if there's something that can help keep us calm and more comfortable in our own skin, I think that's...
I submit to you that a Beacon 40, that 40 hertz light, is a vitamin that will help you stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And
wonderful.
It's good for the brain. And let's do things that are preventative. Let's try to have healthy lifestyles. I really believe that's for the moment the best answer to the Alzheimer's problem, which is overwhelming. I was startled at the statistics. Almost 6 million people in this country have the problem.
Yep.
It's the number 6 cause of death. You're probably familiar with all of these things, but this was new to me.
Mm-hmm.
To discover quite the dimensions of the Alzheimer's epidemic.
Yeah, well, and with the numbers even as high as they are, we still don't have them all, because there's a lot of people out there with symptoms that haven't gotten diagnosed. So, to me,
sure that's right.
It's the tip of the iceberg, and we still have to get people feeling more comfortable even going in to get checked out. We have to get our doctors to do more screenings, have comfortable conversations regarding this where people feel like they're going to be supported and, they're not going to have their family and friends free and be scared of them.
No, fear is the enemy for sure. Fear is certainly the enemy.
Yep.
But
now,
one of the things that may help is 40 hertz light.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Now, Terry, with this, how big is this light, and what's the cost to it? If you don't mind sharing.
The light is actually the size of a small stereo speaker. It's about 9 inches high. I mean, you really wouldn't notice it unless you were looking for it. It just looks like a small stereo speaker, and it's available in several configurations, from 1 light to 2 light to 6 lights or more, and it's about $250.
Okay, great. Now, with that, I think the other thing that I just want to mention is, even though this would be great for somebody who is diagnosed with dementia, this would be something that anybody in the family or in a community could really get benefit from as well. Is that correct?
I dramatically believe that. That's why I have it on my desk right now, and have persuaded many friends and family members to do the same. It's a healthy thing to do, and there's no downside. I mean, unless you have photosensitive epileptic seizures, which is really at a different frequency anyway.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, that won't trigger that. And this isn't something that's going to suck so much energy that you're going to see your bills spinning out of control either, no. I would imagine.
No, and it's fascinating because when you turn it on, the first thing that happens is you say, "Oh, well, that's flashing. That's kind of annoying." And then 30 seconds later, you don't know it's there.
Yep.
And it's just part of the environment, but it's an enriching part of the environment.
Yep. Now, how long do you have to spend in front of it? Do you have time scenarios, or can you spend too much time in front of it?
I don't believe it's possible to spend too much time with 40 hertz light. We recommend that our customers who are using this as a treatment or as a therapy get at least an hour a day. But as I said, I have mine on all the time. I don't think you can do too much. It doesn't have to shine directly into the eyes. It can simply be part of the environmental lighting, and it doesn't require that you do anything other than have it on and have it visible.
Now, this might sound kind of goofy, but would it be something that would be appropriate to even have in your bedroom when you want to go to sleep, or is it best to do it when you're up and you're active and alert and have that light?
Well, I think it can be beneficial as long as you can see it. I don't think it has any beneficial effect once you have closed your eyes and gone to sleep. There may be other therapies for that, but this is for light you can see. This is visible light. Okay.
Well, good to know. I'm thrilled that you called in today to share with us.
I'm
Beacon
such
40.
a believer in the HomeoLux product. And if you'd like to have any more information, please let me know. We're available at our own website, homeolux.com, or at amazon.com. And as I said, for the month of September, 100% of our profits go to the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay. And HomeoLux is HomeoLux.com. Is that correct?
You've got it exactly.
Well, wonderful. Thank you again so much for calling in, Terry. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your interest. I'm just delighted to be able to spread the good news about 40 hertz light and prevention.
Great. Thank you. Got another
you,
caller on the line here. I'm going to pull in the caller at 4548. 4548. You want to introduce yourself and tell us where you're located?
Hi, Lori. It's Cindy Luzinski in Colorado.
Well, hey, Cindy. How the heck you doing?
Sorry for the delay in getting here.
No, this was actually perfect timing, so this is great.
Good. Well, I planned to listen to more of the show today, and I ended up getting getting out of a meeting late. But yeah, I was just talking with my staff, and I thought, I'm going to see what's going on with you and update you about what we're doing here in Colorado.
Yeah, I know you're going through a lot of changes, so update us all. Cindy, for those of you that aren't aware of who she is a maverick, a superwoman. She is just changing the landscape of dementia care and culture in Colorado, and is having this ripple effect truly, really around the world. She's just doing amazing work. I can't say enough good things about this woman. So you got the floor, Cindy.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Well, our nonprofit organization, Dementia Friendly Communities of Northern Colorado, went through a name change and rebranding with the whole COVID pandemic. And what we really focused on was, let's be true to who we are. We didn't want to have mission drift. We knew that our mission was no one walking the dementia journey has to walk alone. And so we stayed true to that mission, but we said, let's ask the people that we serve and how do they see what we're doing. And what they reflected to us was who you are is you are people who come alongside us on this journey so that we aren't alone. And we're like, okay, good. We're sticking to our mission. And so the name ended up getting changed to better reflect that. So now our name is called Dementia Together. And with that, we continue to try to help businesses become more dementia friendly, although that has become a lesser focus. And instead, we've focused more on the people that we actually serve with our care partner support groups and our memory cafes. And of course, all of our monthly memory cafes can't meet in person ever since March. So we did that quick pivot way back in March. And now we've been doing weekly virtual memory cafes for our couples that are still living at home or people that are living independently at home. We do 2 of those a week. And then we also do a couple virtual memory cafes for long-term care community staff and residents and their families outside the facilities so that the families outside of the facilities can attend the same memory cafes with their loved ones and see their loved ones engage. And it's just, even last week, we just had a couple daughters whose mother had recently moved to one of our long-term care communities. And they said, it is just so nice to be able to see mom singing along and dancing and enjoying herself. And one of the daughters hadn't even seen the facility where her mom had moved because she was calling in from out of state. But that has been a really good service for the community to have these virtual memory cafes for long-term care communities. The interesting barrier is that staff a lot of times either don't know, don't have time, even just to hook up a simple HDMI cord from a computer to a TV to get the staff to get the residents to be able to watch and participate in the memory cafes. That's been somewhat of a challenge, although word gets out, and there's been plenty of long-term care communities here who are now starting to sign on more and more, and the families are figuring out, like, this is a great way to see my loved one. So gradually, those numbers are increasing. So it could be that rather than doing 4 memory cafes a week, including the 2 for the community and then the 2 for long-term care communities, it might be that we end up doing, more than that every week. But it's been an interesting shift, and, we still are, I believe, staying true to our mission of walking alongside these people on the dementia journey. And then for those who haven't been able to figure out the whole Zoom thing, we've been trying to still connect with letters and phone calls, and we started a dinner drop once a month for our couples. And so yesterday was we delivered 100 breakfast burritos to some of our people. And that's just been a simple, old-fashioned way to help people know that they're not alone and they haven't been forgotten. So it's just been real interesting with our whole new Dementia Together branding, and then just really focusing on staying true to who we are and not losing sight of that. It's been a good season.
Now, are you still, because you used to get like packets to physicians and things like that, are you still continuing to do that, or?
Yes. Yeah, we are. And we're actually expanding. We started in one county in northern Colorado, and we're expanding to the county next door and planning to deliver some of those. So the packets just include a one-page tip sheet for somebody living with dementia, a one-page tip sheet for a care partner. It includes the links to the various ways to connect, which are now mostly virtually with us, and some of the education, so education, life enrichment information. And then we also include the business cards, not just of our organization, but of other collaborating organizations in northern Colorado. So we include the Area Agencies on Aging business card, and we include Alzheimer's Association business cards. And we essentially then help these people get referred to other organizations as well, just so that they don't go from getting a dementia-related diagnosis to floundering for 6 months. Instead, it's, we give these folders at no charge to the medical providers in northern Colorado, and then they know they can give these folders to their patients getting worked up for dementia and say, come back and see us in 2 weeks. Let's find out who you're getting hooked up with, and making sure that they know that they get connected with some kind of resource in northern Colorado so that they're not having that period of anxiously wondering what to do next.
Well,
so that's
I
been a
love
really
that.
Good program. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you said floundering for 6 months, listeners, 6 months is a short period of time for some people to flounder and trying to get connected. So just to keep that in perspective, this is huge what Cindy is doing, and I really encourage other communities to follow step with this, because this is, I would say, it's the number one complaint from families is I'm not connected. I don't know what to do. You gave me a prescription and another appointment and told me to see my attorney and get my affairs in order, but how do I live day to day with this? And where do I go? Very, very important stuff. So and I have to say that I love your name, because the last one was it was a lot to spit out, and I never knew if I was getting the words in right order, and stuff. And so Dementia Together is just nice and simple, and you're a .org, not a .com. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're a nonprofit organization, so we really just rely on grants and private donations to keep us going, and try to provide the services, including the resource folders and the education and life enrichment programming, to families and care partners at no charge to them, so that cost isn't a barrier to participation. And I feel like that's still been the right way for us to go, because there's been plenty of people we've been able to reach because cost wasn't a barrier.
Yeah, and cost is tough, especially now you add COVID into things too, and the markets are changing, and there's just so much going on out there. I just have to really applaud you for your memory cafes and converting things quickly, because out of the 800-900 memory cafes, I think Dave's only got 50. It might be up to 60 that have converted to virtual, and that's not enough. We need to be doing better in terms of converting, because COVID's going to be with us for a while, and this is going to be able to reach people that haven't been able to come physically too, because they just don't feel that they can leave their house. It's just too difficult, maybe with their the person they're caring for, whatever it might be, or maybe they're physically disabled and it's just too much to do. So I think a lot of things are going to change for the better, and I know it causes a lot of sweat and strain on everybody in the meantime till we figure it all out. But by having conversations like we are today, I think it brings hope and light and ideas for people to be able to implement and make change in their own communities or in their own lives as a whole.
Yeah.
Now, you guys were doing what was it, the B flats or B sharp program. I always say B flat, the B sharp program, and I would imagine that that's kind of come to a halt because that was an in-person
Well, you would
event.
think it would. Actually, last season we did some virtual reality filming of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And so that's actually been available to our people who are in the program, where the B-Sharp program was a program that allowed people with dementia and their care partners to attend the Fort Collins Symphony 5 times during the season, and with the tickets underwritten by people in the community, and then be part of a study at CSU looking at sense of connection, their cognition, and mood. And so actually they are continuing some symphony performances now online, of course, and then our B-Sharp people can be a part of that. So that is kind of just getting underway again to restart in October. And we hear, back to your Memory Cafe comment, like, of course our people want to get together again in person, and we can't right now. But to your point, you're right. There are plenty of people who say this is actually easier and better. And we can reach more people. We can reach the people in rural areas. We can have people join us, not necessarily, right from the same town, and they become friends. I feel like it's just amazing the depth of relationship that people can establish, even just on over the internet. So. So we have, I think we have some good stuff going on. Yeah,
and I think the virtual connections, that was poo-pooed for so long. I mean,
you were ahead of the game with everybody on that, with dementia chats, and I mean, you of all people should know that.
Well, but I mean, even like Facebook groups and things like that, with people chatting that isn't. That isn't a video, it isn't audio, but they had real communications and developed real friendships, and people just kind of flush that all down the toilet going, oh, that's not real. And it's like, you know what, we're not talking about the weather and the sports. I know more about them than I know about you, and I've known you for 20 years. I mean, it was really about, that those intimate, authentic discussions of all the emotional stuff too that we go through, and people not walking away but being there to support them no matter what time of day that it was. So I think it's fantastic, and it opens the door again for more flexibility for people to be able to gather, and just like they say, telemedicine's not going to go away, and virtual conferencing probably isn't going to go away. Virtual schools and online stuff probably isn't going to go away either. It's all going to get incorporated to give us more choice to meet our needs, so that we can do a better job supporting whoever it is we're supporting in the moment. So what is the best way to get a hold of you guys if someone is interested in learning more about your dynamic organization, Dementia Together?
Well, thanks. So dementiatogether.org, pretty easily, or pretty easy address. And to reach me, it's Cindy, CYNDY, at dementiatogether.org.
And just remember, Cindy's unique, so of course she spells her name different. Just keep it in that.
Just to make it difficult. I think you can actually type in help at dementiatogether.org too, and it'll get to somebody.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing what all you're up to. Keep up the fantastic work. I just love watching what you guys are doing, because it's very impactful. You guys should be really proud of your work.
Well, thank you. And I get to publicly say right now, even as we were starting this nonprofit organization several years ago as a volunteer initiative, you coming out here and helping us get started and motivating us to do it right, I feel like is a huge foundation that we got to start with in the right direction. So thank you for everything you've done for us and your ongoing support of our work.
Oh, well, I adore you guys. And like I said, you're the energy and your focus. I mean, you're laser focused with a warm, fuzzy heart. You're not overly academic. You guys are always so personal, and people. You walk into any of these groups, and the energy is so profound. People are smiling. They know each other. They're thrilled to be together. That's how we should all feel. I don't care dementia or not.
Yeah.
We should all feel
Yep.
welcomed. And you guys do a really great job at that, along with all the education that you're doing. So, yeah. Well, thank you. I've got another caller on the line. I want to pull in here.
Good
So
talking to you. Okay.
Thanks for calling in. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
So we've got another caller from an 8062 number. 8062, you are live and on the air. Do you want to state your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, Laurie. It's Christine Telker calling from Vernon, British Columbia, Canada.
Oh, what a sweet surprise. Oh, my gosh. If you guys don't know Christine, I interviewed her not too long ago. Amazing interview. So tell us what you've been up to, Christine.
Oh, well, advocating as always, and, just really trying to connect to people and make sure that they stay connected. Working a lot, doing, of course, book signings, which has been a little different with the COVID rules we have up here in Canada, but still managing to do that and, really working on the advocating part of it, really pushing hard for some change.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you, before we get into some of the advocating and change that you're working on, why don't you mention the title of your book and what people can expect, because it's really a fantastic book.
The book's called For This I Am Grateful, Living with Dementia. And what they can expect is honesty. They can expect a personal perspective of my life. And I don't hold anything back. I share the good and the not so good. Because so often we get a second or third perspective. Because it is very difficult to make yourself vulnerable enough to share all of those difficult pieces, but so worthwhile, I think. And actually, I've been really surprised at the level of interest from the academic world and the clinicians and doctors. So really trying to work with a lot of those people and getting the books into their hands, because that's where we can really start to make the change. And it's about giving people hope. It's about giving people hope.
Yeah. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Christine, she is living with dementia, and her story is amazing. I mean, you'll laugh and you'll cry when you're reading this book if you're anything like me. But you will see things in a different light. You will become aware of things that you overlooked before. And to me, it's just got powerful life lessons just woven in there. And, the name of the book is really all about being grateful. And some people will go, now, excuse me, but how can you be grateful about dementia? But there are great gifts wrapped in that experience, just as there is in all of life, if you choose to look for it. And, you went through some really tough times, and just the way you walked through them with such grace and such honesty, and like I said, like you said, being vulnerable and just laying it out there. How did you deal with that? Because a lot of people don't like to be that vulnerable. They'll probably really appreciate that you were able to do that, but they might not think that they're ready themselves.
Yeah, I do hear that from people, and I've been really touched. It's made me very emotional because I've heard from people from all corners of the world who have reached out to me after they've read my book, and it's made me really aware of how important it was to be that vulnerable. And the other thing is, when I decided to do the book and sent it off to the publishers, and then it spent a year and a half or whatever it was, in their hands. They weren't allowed to make any changes, but they had to do their setup and all the stuff they have to do, because I wanted it to stay my words, not them changing. So we had a very strict contract around that. But for me, I didn't really realize how vulnerable I had made myself until the book was actually released. And then I started getting messages and calls, and it was like, oh my gosh, what have I done to myself? That's the honest answer. And then it was like, then I just had to re-ground myself back to, why did I write the book? And I wrote the book because I always said, after my diagnosis, that if I had to have this illness, it couldn't be for nothing, that I needed to find a way to help other people. So I had to just take that vulnerability and wrap it back around what was the original goal of writing the book.
Yep.
And that made it much easier.
Yeah, it's just beautifully done, and even the artwork, which you personally did on the book cover, is fantastic too. I think it just states such a story in and of itself as well. Now, regarding your advocacy, what types of things are you doing and can you do during COVID right now?
Well, as far as the advocacy work, because all of that, of course, is done differently. And, of course, Alzheimer's Disease International's big conference that was supposed to be in Singapore in March, which was then postponed till December, which is now changed to an online first ever conference. So I am still going to be presenting two different sessions. And so it's doing advocacy in a different way, trying to reach people in different ways. There's a lot of work being done out there right now, because there's a lot of questions that a lot of advocates are asking, like, why after 25 or 30 years of people advocating are we still not seeing change?
Yeah.
The changes are so small and minute, but I say take those small ones, because every one of them is a win.
Yep.
But we need to have a bigger change happen globally and within our each individual countries and communities, so that people can really thrive and continue to live their life. To live their life. I was just looking at some notes of mine this morning. I have notes all over the place, of course. And I had wrote at one point a little statement, don't bury us before we're dead. Don't tell people to go home and get ready to die. Tell people and give people the tools to help them live.
Yep.
Everybody that gets this diagnosis is, if they're not already, just because of all the public perception of what dementia is, and which is very wrong. We all know that, but it's what it is. So we all know what the end stage is going to look like, but nobody's telling us what can be done in the meantime. How do we live? Where are the resources to help us thrive? You know? So that's where I'm really trying to make a difference and make some big statements around that and have the voices heard around that. So, COVID has changed everything, but what it hasn't done is it hasn't stopped us. We're just finding new ways to advocate.
Exactly. I was recording the dementia chats this morning, and those are a panel of people living with dementia. We were talking about diagnosis and the change of diagnosis and, how did they feel? And, they all talked about, upon diagnosis, they just wanted to give up and die. They got really down, and same when a change in diagnosis occurred, because they finally settled into, okay, this is it. Now it's like, okay, now you got to do it all over again and figure out what's at play. But what was interesting as we were talking, they were talking about how some of the people in their lives had walked out, both family and friends. And I drew them back and said that's because they were framing the disease as end of life. Automatically you're in end stages. And there's so much life to be lived in between. And we do need to talk about that.
And that's one of the, to me, that is one of the biggest things that we need to push to change. And the way we do that is we have to reach the policymakers, the heads of the medical schools and nursing schools and all of the different medical fields out there, so that people are actually learning current, relevant information and how to help people live instead of just telling them to die, and how they can go about giving that diagnosis in a way that does not destroy their life. There is some people that when they get those kinds of terminal illness diagnosis, because that's what it is, it devastates them and they can never find their way out of that. Yeah. So we need to stop doing that to people.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's my big push right now, is all around that. And I know even within my own community, I have got all kinds of doctors now within the community reading my book and going, wow, I had no idea. Wow. I had one of our specialists who actually is new here and works in dementia, reach out and ask for my book because one of his patients told him about it. So, those are small places to make the changes, but we need them at the bigger levels. We need them in the schools where they're being taught. We have health assistants and healthcare aides, and they're called various things in various countries, working in long-term care and working in hospital settings. And we have nurses working in hospital settings, and they get no training. It's skipped over in their courses because nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. We have to stop that.
Yep.
So
and part of it too, don't you think, is that it's kind of this one size fits all mentality, but they really don't understand that everybody is going to react to their symptoms differently because they're just wired differently. They have a different history. They have different emotional, psychological, intelligent base, gene makeup, the whole 9 yards. All that stuff comes into play. And so I still think doctors are shocked for the most part that, oh gosh, well that's not how the other person reacted to this,
Well, and that's very true. They, it isn't a one size fits all. I don't go into the shoe store and buy the same
size of shoes as you do? What makes a doctor think that because I have a specific type of dementia that everybody with my specific kind is going to behave like I do? That isn't possible because, like you say, there's all the underlying things that contribute. And the brain is so complex, and it sends different signals at different times. So the old saying that if you've met one person with dementia, you've only met one person is very true. We all are so much alike and yet so vastly different. And that crosses over through many different types of dementia, not just within one type. So it's a very complex disease. And we all get that. We all accept that. But we need them to accept that so that then they can start actually being able to help us.
Yeah, well, and understanding too that it's a fluid disease. So just because you're diagnosed with Alzheimer's today doesn't mean you couldn't have vascular or frontal temporal lobe or Parkinson's or even FTD come into your equation. Some people end up with a mixed diagnosis or multiple diagnosis or shifting diagnosis or even just name changes of an original diagnosis, because the only way to really know is through autopsy, and that really isn't an option when you want to live. So so it's important for us to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so true. It does cross over, and oftentimes people, and this is the other thing they have to stop doing. They give you the diagnosis, then they take it away, then they give it back to you, then they change it to something else, and then they give it back to you, and then before you know it, you're so distraught because you have no idea what's really right and what's not right, but you know that you have a problem. And we know within ourselves that we're not the same as we were before. So, they have to be a little more careful in those kinds of things, and many people do end up with what they now term and started to coin as mixed dementia, and that's when one type of dementia is crossing over into another type, and it's quite relevant for a lot of people, and health issues start affecting us because we still have other health issues. We actually end up with a lot of complicating health issues. And as those things come into play, it's very often that we end up with this mixed dementia. So, it would be better if they said you have, for example, for myself, you have vascular dementia with a mixed component. Okay, I can live with that. But don't tell me you have vascular dementia. Well, maybe you don't. Well, you have vascular dementia. Well, we're not sure now. And it's like, you can't, we don't tell people, well, you have cancer. Oops, no, you don't. We don't devastate people that way. So we shouldn't do that to people with dementia.
Yeah, I kind of relate it to finding out you're adopted. It's like, but I thought this was my family, and now it's like, who am I? And what's the truth about me? And you have all of those things that come into play. It's really important that I think that we also set up with starting from the doctors that this can be a fluid disease that can change, so that people know that up front. And so it's not such a shock, because it's typically not something anybody talks about to their patient. And then it's all of a sudden, well, what do you mean? This is kind of hitting me sideways here. And so if that is just mentioned up front, I think it would be less frustrating and less confusing when if
and less
that occurs.
And less frightening.
Yes.
Yes. The other piece of that is that, how they're delivering diagnosis and who they're delivering it to, because age matters in a diagnosis. So, if you're diagnosed like I was in my 50s, sort of in that prime of, working and building for my retirement years and all of those things, or you're 85, there's a difference in how you're going to manage getting that diagnosis and how much you may or may not want to do to try to alleviate symptoms and help yourself as much as you can. At 85 or 88, you may just want to bobble along and enjoy what time you have left. At 55, you're going to be more inclined to say, what can I do to help myself?
Exactly.
So age matters.
Yeah. And again, there isn't anything black and white about any of this stuff. We've got to be open, and you've got to, doctors need to know their patients, and they need to know their families too. I think it's really, really important that we have honest conversations and that we get people the resources as easily and as quickly as possible. Christine, thank you so much for calling in. Again, I would recommend her book. It's called For This I Am Grateful, and you can get that on Amazon, or can they go to your website as well, Christine?
Yeah, you can go to my website or my publisher's website at Austin McCauley, or your local bookstore, Barnes and Noble in the U.S. or even your local bookstores, and they can bring it in for you. And chapters up here in Canada. And thank you for having me. I got I got the link sent to me for the show today, and I thought, I just have to take the opportunity while I'm sitting here to call in and say hi, Lori.
Well, I'm glad you did. You're doing wonderful work, and I thank you for calling in. I thank everybody who called in today. I think we had a great conversation, and so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show here because we usually go an hour. I had a gut feeling we might go a little bit longer today, but I think it's important to hear what people are doing and what resources we can find. And again, I would encourage people to go to mdvip.com/brain health IQ quiz. I think you'll be surprised at what you know and what you don't know. And they will show you and give you some examples of information there as well if you didn't get something correct. So don't worry about it. But it's just it's a nice quiz. It'll only take you about 10 minutes. So check that out. And again, to all of our listeners, again, I want to thank you. I would encourage you to subscribe if you haven't, and like, click, and share this episode. I think it was filled with great information that people need to know about. And if you are thinking maybe, just maybe, you'd like to be a guest, please reach out to me at Lori, Lori, at alzheimersspeaks.com, or just go to our main website, alzheimersspeaks.com. So you'll have two S's in the middle. There's a big contact button in the upper right-hand corner, if that is easier, or there's always a link on our radio page as well. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye now.
Well, hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.